Have you ever wondered how an ordinary young person could profoundly impact the modern world through faith and technology? Dive into the compelling story of Carlo Acutis, a beacon of hope and inspiration for youth around the globe. His journey combines relatable simplicity with the extraordinary, proving that holiness is attainable in today's world. Don't miss out. Like, subscribe, and share to stay connected with stories that resonate and inspire. Carlo Acutis, the modern-day saint of technology. Carlo Acutis was born in London on May 3, 1991, and raised in Italy. From a young age, he demonstrated an affinity for both spirituality and computers. This dual passion would later shape his remarkable journey. Unlike the typical saintly figures from centuries past, Carlo's story unfolds in the digital age, making his life relatable to today's youth. He seamlessly combined his deep love for God with his tech-savvy nature, showing that faith and modernity can coexist harmoniously. He taught himself programming and website development, skills that would become pivotal in his mission to spread the faith. Carlo created a comprehensive online database of Eucharistic miracles from around the world, an initiative that continues to inspire people globally. His unique approach appealed not just to religious audiences but to anyone intrigued by the intersection of technology and spirituality. By using the internet for evangelization, Carlo showed that tools often associated with distraction could also foster faith. He firmly believed that the internet was a gift that could either be used to spread goodness or, conversely, harm. This belief fueled his passion to harness technology for spreading awareness about God's miracles. His forward-thinking mindset encourages the current generation to rethink their digital habits and use them for positive outreach. Even as a teenager, Carlo was an old soul with a mature sense of responsibility. He understood that his talents were gifts meant to be shared. This realization spurred him to spend countless hours curating content that would inform and inspire others about the miracles of the Eucharist. Despite his digital pursuits, he always put his relationship with Christ first, attending daily Mass and spending time in prayer. What makes Carlo truly inspiring is how he remained grounded despite his growing influence. He maintained a simple and humble lifestyle, which mirrored the core Christian values he cherished. His approach to life showed that sanctity is not just reserved for clergy or monks but is a calling for everyone, regardless of age or background. In his brief 15 years, Carlo left an enduring impact by making spirituality accessible and relatable through technology. His story is an invitation to young people everywhere to bring their faith into their daily routines and to dare to be different, even in a society that often prizes conformity. If Carlo's life teaches anything, it's that true joy comes not from indulgence or material wealth but from aligning one's life with a greater purpose. This conviction led him to use his skills for good, spreading hope and wonder through the very screens that often dull our senses. Carlo Acutis, a heart overflowing with compassion. Carlo Acutis' life was marked not only by his technological achievements but also by his boundless empathy and compassion for others. From a young age, Carlo demonstrated an innate sensitivity to the suffering of those around him. This trait set him apart in a world often focused on individual success and personal gain. His acts of kindness were not grand gestures but rather simple, heartfelt acts that impacted everyone he encountered. One of Carlo's most defining characteristics was his ability to see Christ in every person. This deep understanding of Christian teachings translated into tangible actions. He was known for using his pocket money to buy sleeping bags for the homeless, ensuring they had some comfort during cold nights. These acts were not for show but came from an authentic desire to help those less fortunate. For Carlo, charity was not an obligation but a natural extension of his faith. He regularly volunteered at soup kitchens and spent time listening to the stories of the homeless, treating them with dignity and respect. This sense of empathy was remarkable for someone so young and demonstrated an advanced level of emotional maturity. It wasn't enough for Carlo to simply donate or volunteer. He aimed to connect, understanding that true compassion involves more than just physical acts, it requires emotional engagement. What set Carlo's compassion apart was that it wasn't selective or conditional. Whether he was interacting with a classmate who was struggling or a stranger on the street, He treated everyone with the same kindness and interest. This openness made him a well-loved figure not only in his community but also among his peers, many of whom were inspired to adopt his mindset. His kindness fostered an environment where people felt seen, heard, and valued. Carlo's deep compassion was rooted in his love for Christ and the teachings of the Church. He believed that if Jesus could give his life for humanity, then the least he could do was share his life and resources with others. This belief translated into everyday actions, like offering a helping hand to classmates with their homework or standing up for those who were being bullied. These small yet powerful moments built up a legacy of kindness that would inspire many even after his passing. Perhaps what made Carlo's acts of kindness so inspiring was that they came without expectation of reward or recognition. In a world where many perform good deeds for social approval or accolades, Carlo's motivations were purely selfless. He reminded those around him that genuine charity is done for its own sake, reflecting the self-giving love of Christ. Carlo's compassion also extended to spiritual concerns. He was known to encourage his friends and family to participate in the sacraments and deepen their faith. He prayed fervently for those who were struggling with their beliefs, emphasizing that he wanted everyone to experience the profound peace and joy that came from a relationship with God. This spiritual care, paired with his tangible acts of kindness, painted a full picture of someone whose life was defined by love in all its forms. Even after his death, stories of his compassion continued to emerge, shared by those who had been touched by his kindness. These testimonies reinforced that Carlo's empathy was not just a trait but a legacy, inspiring many to adopt a more loving and understanding approach to others. Carlo Acutis, devotion to the Eucharist as a cornerstone. One of the most profound aspects of Carlo Acutis' spirituality was his deep devotion to the Eucharist. He famously described the Eucharist as his highway to heaven, a phrase that has resonated with countless believers and continues to inspire those seeking a deeper relationship with Christ. This devotion set the foundation for his entire spiritual journey and emphasized the central role that the Eucharist played in his life. From a young age, Carlo felt a unique pull towards the sacred mystery of the Eucharist. While many children approach their first communion as a routine rite of passage, for Carlo, it was a transformative experience. He spoke of feeling an immense sense of peace and closeness to God that day, and from then on, attending daily Mass became a non-negotiable part of his routine. He would encourage others, saying that those who approached the Eucharist with an open heart would find a renewed sense of purpose and peace. Carlo was not just content with his own understanding, he wanted others to appreciate the miracle of the Eucharist. To this end, he used his technological skills to create an online catalog of Eucharistic miracles around the world. This project, which took years to compile, became a testament to his dedication and faith. The website he built offered detailed information and visuals, making these miracles accessible to people everywhere, breaking down barriers and inviting others to deepen their belief. His devotion was contagious. Friends, classmates, and even strangers who learned about Carlo's project were drawn to the reverence he held for the Eucharist. He was known for saying that we are more fortunate than the apostles because, unlike them, we have the ability to receive Jesus daily in the Eucharist. These words challenged those around him to reflect on their own attitudes towards Mass and communion. Carlo's unwavering faith was not without its challenges. He lived in a time when many young people distanced themselves from religious practices, viewing them as outdated or irrelevant. Yet, Carlo's enthusiastic approach offered a fresh perspective that spoke directly to youth. He demonstrated that reverence for tradition could coexist with the innovations of the modern world, a balancing act that few manage so well. This devotion wasn't simply ritualistic. Carlo's relationship with the Eucharist influenced his actions and decisions. It strengthened his resolve to live a life rooted in love and charity. He believed that receiving the Eucharist gave him the strength to overcome temptation and to grow in virtues such as patience, humility, and kindness. It was his lifeline, sustaining him both spiritually and emotionally. He would often spend time in adoration after Mass, reflecting on the love and sacrifice that the Eucharist represented. This practice deepened his spirituality and became a source of strength during difficult times. He encouraged others to find solace in these moments, emphasizing that anyone, regardless of their struggles, could find peace by turning to the Eucharist. Carlo's example has had a ripple effect. His website on Eucharistic miracles has since been translated into multiple languages, inspiring pilgrimages, catechism lessons, and increased devotion among Catholics worldwide. It serves as a reminder that, through the Eucharist, one can build an intimate relationship with Christ, even in a world distracted by technology and fast-paced living. His story continues to influence many to this day, leading them to seek a deeper understanding of their faith through the Eucharist. Carlo's devotion reminds believers that true connection with God is accessible through the sacraments and that this connection is powerful enough to transform not only personal lives but entire communities. Carlo Acutis, courage in the face of life's challenges. Carlo Acutis's life, though brief, was not without its trials. His story is a powerful example of how courage and unwavering faith can shine through even the most challenging circumstances. When Carlo was diagnosed with leukemia at the age of 15, his response was not one of despair but of quiet acceptance and resilience. His courage during this difficult time became a beacon of hope for many, showing that faith can provide strength even in the darkest moments. From the onset of his illness, Carlo maintained an extraordinary perspective. He famously said, "I offer all the suffering I will have to suffer for the Lord, for the Pope, and the Church." These words were not merely spoken, they represented the core of how he faced his illness. Rather than succumbing to fear, Carlo embraced his suffering as a means to be closer to Christ, who himself experienced pain and sacrifice. His response served as a living testimony to the Christian belief that suffering, when embraced with faith, can have redemptive power. Carlo's courage was not limited to his own battle but extended to comforting those around him. His parents, understandably devastated by their son's diagnosis, found strength in Carlo's composure. He would reassure them, reminding them of God's love and the promise of eternal life. This role reversal, where a child became the source of hope for his parents, illustrates the profound spiritual maturity Carlo possessed. Even as his condition worsened, Carlo refused to let it define his spirit. He remained joyful, finding ways to continue sharing his love for God despite physical limitations. His hospital room became a place of prayer and reflection, filled with conversations about faith and hope. He approached each day with a positive outlook, often reminding visitors and hospital staff that happiness is looking at God. This unwavering faith in the face of adversity inspired those who encountered him and continues to resonate with countless people who hear his story. What makes Carlo's courage particularly compelling is how relatable it is. He was not an adult who had years of spiritual training or life experience to prepare him for such trials. He was a teenager with dreams and aspirations like any other. His ability to face his mortality with such grace challenges people of all ages to reconsider how they approach their own hardships. It teaches that courage isn't the absence of fear but the decision to face it with trust in God. Carlo's story reminds us that courage can be found in the everyday moments, not just in grand acts. His acceptance of his illness and willingness to find meaning in suffering demonstrate that faith can transform even the most daunting experiences into opportunities for growth and closeness to God. His life invites us to reflect on how we respond to our own struggles and how faith can serve as a pillar of strength. The legacy of Carlo's courage extends beyond just inspiration, it has had tangible effects. Stories of people facing their own battles with illness who found renewed hope after learning about Carlo's story are numerous. His example has helped others shift their perspective, understanding that life's challenges can be endured with grace when anchored in faith. Carlo's battle with leukemia ultimately took his life on October 12, 2006, but his spirit of courage lives on. His beatification by the Catholic Church in 2020 only underscores the enduring relevance of his example. Carlo's life, short yet filled with profound lessons, continues to encourage people to find courage in their faith, even when faced with the most daunting challenges. Carlo Acutis, building community and genuine connections. Carlo Acutis understood the value of community and its power to uplift and strengthen faith. In a world increasingly characterized by isolation and superficial relationships, Carlo's life serves as a reminder that true connection is essential. He believed that faith was not meant to be a solitary journey but one shared with others, fostering a spirit of unity and mutual support. His approach to building community and connecting with people, both online and offline, is one of the most endearing aspects of his legacy. From a young age, Carlo had an incredible knack for making those around him feel valued. He took time to form genuine friendships, not just within his immediate circle but also reaching out to people who often felt overlooked. Whether it was a new student at school or someone struggling to fit in, Carlo would go out of his way to welcome them and make them feel part of the group. This simple yet impactful practice reflected his belief that every person is loved by God and deserves kindness and attention. His interest in people was never superficial. Carlo was known for asking thoughtful questions, listening intently, and offering support whenever needed. This made him beloved by peers and adults alike. Teachers, classmates, and even neighbors recalled how Carlo's presence brought a sense of warmth and inclusion. He had a way of breaking down barriers, fostering an environment where everyone felt they could be themselves without judgment. Carlo's sense of community extended beyond face-to-face interactions. He recognized the potential of the internet not just as a platform for information but as a tool for fostering connection. His online presence was never about popularity or personal gain. Instead, he used it to share his faith and encourage dialogue among people who might otherwise never cross paths. His website on Eucharistic miracles is a prime example of this outreach. It created a virtual community where believers and the curious alike could explore and deepen their understanding of the faith. In church settings, Carlo played a vital role in organizing youth activities, prayer groups, and catechism classes. His enthusiasm for these initiatives was contagious, often drawing in more participants and creating a lively atmosphere. He saw these gatherings not just as religious obligations but as opportunities for forming lasting bonds. His leadership was not about being the center of attention, it was about empowering others to engage and share their faith journeys. What made Carlo's efforts so impactful was his authenticity. In a world where people often present curated versions of themselves, Carlo was unapologetically genuine. This authenticity made his outreach efforts effective. People trusted him and felt comfortable opening up. This trust laid the groundwork for deep connections that transcended typical friendships and fostered a sense of belonging among those he encountered. Carlo's focus on community also had a ripple effect. Inspired by his example, many of his friends began to emulate his approach, reaching out to others and prioritizing meaningful connections. These actions created a culture of kindness and empathy that extended well beyond Carlo's immediate circle. His influence encouraged those around him to view social interactions not just as obligations but as opportunities to share love and compassion, mirroring Christ's teachings. Even during his illness, Carlo's commitment to connection did not waver. He remained in touch with friends and continued to share messages of hope and encouragement. This consistency in his character revealed the depth of his commitment to others and the value he placed on community, even as he faced his own challenges. His willingness to stay connected inspired those around him to do the same, creating networks of support that endured long after his passing. The legacy of Carlo's approach to community is still evident today. People continue to gather for events inspired by his life, such as talks, workshops, and prayer vigils, which keep the spirit of his message alive. His example challenges each of us to reassess how we engage with those around us and consider how our actions can build up or break down the sense of community. Thank you for staying with us through this journey exploring the incredible life of Carlo Acutis. His legacy continues to inspire, showing that true holiness is within reach for all of us, even in today's fast-paced world. If this story has touched or inspired you, make sure to like, comment, and share this video to spread the message even further. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories that uplift and challenge the way we live our faith.